So you got the one proclamation.
Welcome, everyone. Glad you could make it. Just for council, please make sure that when you speak that it's pushed and turn it off, because Kim has to go back and recreate our minutes, and if it's not hearing, she has no idea. She tries to read people's lips, and that gets a little tough. So with that, we'll come to order for our work session. Under presentations, we do have one tonight that we're going to do. It's number 5, presentation of proclamation recognizing October 1st through 7th, 2023 as Public Power Week. And Alex, if you could come forward, I will come down and we will read this together. And your staff. Thank you. So, Public Power Week. Yes, sir. Before we go into this, tell us a little bit about where our electric department stands and how this works in
don't think there's any better sense of community than public power, because we are the community. Not only do we work here, but we also live here. 120 years strong doing this. I hope to do 120 more.
Excellent. Who do you have with you?
This is Andrew Klein, our deputy director.
Andrew, have we met
I
before?
think we have.
Mr. Fred Ford, our engineering manager, and Mr. Caleb Green, he's our project manager. How you doing?
Excellent. Yeah, Andrew and I have worked together for just over 20 years on various things.
I would say about 25 or so.
25 or so. So I would like to go ahead and recognize the Public Power Week in the city of Concord. Whereas public power is a critical component of cities and towns across North Carolina, contributing to the overall health of the community by providing reliable electricity, excellent local service, prompt restoration, and essential jobs. Whereas the city of Concord is one of North Carolina's more than 70 public power cities and towns, and among the 2,000 across the country. And whereas the city of Concord electric system has 83 employees who operate 1,500 miles of distribution lines, 21 substations and deliveries to serve 33,000 residential and commercial customers. And whereas the Concord electric system has delivered electricity to our community for 119 years, assisting through boom times as well as pandemics and economic downturns, maintaining life-saving electricity to homes and businesses. Whereas Concord electric system is an essential community asset that contributes to the well-being of the community and provides economic development opportunities. Whereas Concord electric systems and North Carolina public power utilities are dependable institutions that provide excellent service, valuable energy solutions, and commitment to the community. Now, therefore, I, William C. Bush, Mayor of the City of Concord, along with City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of October 1st through 7th, 2023 as Public Power Week in the City of Concord, and urge all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the values of public power and to recognize the contributions that public professionals make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. So how about a round of applause for these guys? We're sliding. So if you look at your agenda, we have a 6 and 6 for Thursday night. So make the first one a 6A and the second one a 6B, just so you'll know. It'll make sense. No department reports until Thursday, and public hearings, we have one this month. Conduct a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending the Concord Development Ordinances, Article 12 sign standards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After quite a bit of discussion with council and staff to try to make our sign ordinance a little more flexible for our downtown businesses, staff has done that and taken it to the Planning Commission, and so Monterey's here tonight to make this presentation to council for your feedback.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. Concord Development Ordinance contains regulations for exterior signage. Planning is proposing to amend Article 12.4.5 projecting signs and 12.4.7B window signs to add flexibility for projecting and window signage in Center City zoning district. The text amendment aims to address feedback that staff has received from business owners within the Center City zoning district regarding signage. Before you, you will see the Center City zoning district with a red boundary around it. Here are some examples of projecting signs, and you will see one in the top corner that is currently in downtown. I'll give you guys a moment to look at those. 12.4.5 projecting signs. Please note that the changes are being stricken out, as well as the additions in red. And it will read as follows. Projecting signs may be displayed on any building wall where a wall sign is permitted to be displayed. Additionally, a projecting sign may be displayed at the intersection or corner of two building walls. That will be changed in all zoning districts. Just to go ahead and provide that for you today. The large change for Center City will be 12.4.5D below. Projecting signs may have an area up to 16 square feet within C2, C1, OI, B1, and up to 12 square feet within Center City districts. Please note that that has changed from 6 square feet. We can now move to some examples of window signage. You will see in the top right corner one from downtown today. And then below you can see what the how the calculation of the total window sign area would be calculated. (12.4.7) incidental signs. Please note the stricken out box at the bottom. We've changed some numbers, and then 1 and 2 will remain the same. 3 will be as written. Address and hours of operation on windows shall not count in the calculation of window sign area. 4, if the storefront entrance is recessed, any sign applied to the glazing of the recessed doors and recessed windows shall count toward the calculation of window sign area. 5, you will note that in Center City zoning district, window signs require a sign permit and are permitted to cover up to now 20% of glazed area of the first floor building frontage on which they are located. And then 6, we just fixed the number. Here's your possible statement of reasonableness and consistency this afternoon. The proposal is consistent with the 2030 land use plan in that section 5.2, general land use challenges and opportunities, states that the city should maintain the community's character and capitalize on the unique areas of Concord. Furthermore, goal 8 notes that the city should responsibly recruit new business and support existing business. The proposal is reasonable in that it allows for the maintenance of the community's character and showcasing the unique downtown area of Concord. Next steps for you to consider this afternoon. Consider the text amendment, approve a statement of consistency, and then a motion to adopt or not to adopt the proposed revisions to the CDO. That concludes my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. Question from council? Yes, JC?
Could you go back about 3 slides to
Sure.
your examples of the window? Right
Yes.
there. So it's not 20% of one window, it's 20% of all the windows on the storefront, correct?
Correct.
So if they put it on one, they could cumulatively add up to 20%.
Yes.
Fine. Okay, that example in the top right, does that meet the 20%?
No, sir.
Does it get grandfathered in?
We've had some discussions on how to address that once the streetscape is closed. So we would be happy to work with businesses once we close the streetscape.
Where did the 20% come from?
We've done some research and we reviewed Huntersville, Mooresville, and Salisbury's ordinances and noticed that since we had 10, it seemed to be really restrictive compared to what we've seen in other communities. And so that's where we figured that 20% provides businesses who, as you can see, have taken up a larger portion of their windows, more ability to do what they're wanting, as well as helping to permit new businesses. We came across some confusion in our code when trying to permit one of the businesses downtown in the last few months.
Okay. And that wouldn't grandfather in because it was 10%, so it's always been illegal.
And yes, and back pre this, we didn't used to permit window signs, so we had regulations that if their sign companies didn't check, they could have put that up without getting our approval first. So this is hoping to rectify that situation going forward.
Can you go back to the other slide?
This example?
Well, the part about the recessed, I don't
yes.
understand that exactly. Like, tell me what prompted the 20% enlargement is just that a lot of people were not wanting to conform to that, correct? I mean, that's the gist of that.
We had noticed that a lot of signs, unfortunately, were much larger than 10%. And that 10% seemed restrictive to what other downtown areas were doing today.
Okay. And so regarding the recessed entrance, I'd need to understand a little bit about that.
Sure. So the original number 5 was very confusing for staff to interpret and very confusing for us to implement. We had a group discussion, and even we weren't sure what number 5 actually was requiring. So to move back an example to show you, now you'll see in that tiny little on the door, that right there would be the 20% on the door. So whereas before, we used to count addresses and your, time of open and close, like your hours of operation. So we've changed that to where it's just if you have some sort of actual window signage, that would be the only part that counts on the recessed portion.
But the recessed counts for the whole front as the part of the 20%, or is that when it gets recessed, that's another calculation?
Based on the change, it counts as part of the 20%.
And is each window? Or is it your
It's
whole
the
massive
calculation of the
total.
window sign area.
and calculation of window signage and like it's doors or glass? Does that count?
Correct, but it does not count if you have address and hours of operation.
Right, right. Got
Yes.
it, got it.
So in other words, this is being less restrictive in general.
Correct, and we're hoping to clarify and update number 5 and actually make it understandable and able to enforce.
And then the last thing, if you go back to the hanging signs or the
The projecting signs,
projecting
yes.
signs, yeah. Go back to the code as it reads now. I just want to understand what has changed about that. I have to sit here and read it a little
Sure,
bit.
no
But
worries.
tell me what's changed about, why did we line that out? What prompted that?
Definitely. Sure, I'd be happy to answer that for you. So we had also noticed in doing our research with just walking around downtown that even though our code had said this, we have a lot of people that for aesthetic purposes and general location of trying to attract business were wanting to place projecting signs or have placed projecting signs in other locations. And so we figured, let's let the businesses make those decisions as far as where they can place them on the wall. And then we've just chosen to increase the square footage because we've also heard a lot of feedback. Like if you'll see in the previous slide, the downtown Concord sign is a little larger than 6 square feet. So we're trying to give people the opportunity to be noticed, especially as the streetscape is ongoing. And then once it's done, being able to add to the uniqueness and character of downtown Concord.
So is 12 square feet just one sign?
Correct, for the projecting, but it could be, if you noticed, if we go back,
Right, you have,
it could be the drop down as well.
right.
But it's for the entire sign, yes.
Shouldn't have two six foot, just one sign up to 12 feet,
yes.
including the drop down. Okay.
And one thing I know, somebody was trying to do sort of a retro sign at a project. You may know maybe what I'm talking about, and I'll have to look at this, but are we looking at also the limitations with lights? I mean, I don't want it looking like downtown Las Vegas but I think, are we looking into some of those? I know there was one particular project that wanted to sort of do a retro sign based on an older building that was downtown. Are there other things that we may be looking at for that?
So we currently allow illumination. It just depends on safety, whether it's a NCDOT street and there's regulations about that. But we do look at the lumen count to make sure that it's not going to cause harm to pedestrians walking or vehicles traversing.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Just give us a moment. That's very good. Our next one, as soon as Lloyd comes back, will be consider appointing an alternate commission member for the Electricity Non-Power Agency Board of Commissioners. We're going to do that in the work session and vote on it today. So if we approve Andrea, then we will swear her in next. So we have a double duty here. I'll wait till Lloyd gets back so we can do it all in one motion, one step. you. Thank you very much. Okay, so Lloyd, you want to explain this further? I've just introduced the item.
Okay, so yeah, the request tonight from staff is for council to take action tonight at the work session to appoint Andrea Klein, the Deputy Services Director for the Electric Department, as the alternate commission member for Electric City's Non-Power Agencies Board of Commissioners. We'd like to do that this evening, if council would concur with that request, so that we can report that back to Electric Cities and she can assume her duties.
Okay. Is there a motion from council?
Yeah, do this. So I make the motion that we appoint Deputy Services Director Andrea Klein to fill this position, and that we direct you to swear her in now.
Second that.
We have a motion and second. Ready to vote? All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you very much. So, Andrea, if you could come forward, I will walk down here and we will swear you in officially. We have this whole crowd here today that came just here. So this is very simple. If you will lift your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. Repeat after me. I, Andrea Klein,
I, Andrea Klein,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully and impartially execute
and that I will faithfully and impartially execute
and discharge the duties of my office
and discharge the duties of my office
as First Alternate Commissioner
as First Alternate Commissioner
of the Non-Power Agency Commissioners,
of the Non-Power Agency Commissioners,
and that I will adhere and abide
and that I will adhere and abide
by the Electric City's ethical and professional code of conduct,
by the Electric City's ethical and professional code of conduct.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And we will, you will sign this. We'll be done. Okay, we're going to move on to number 2, results of the virtual public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Fred Porter to come forward from the city's electric department. He'll present this item to council this afternoon.
Welcome back.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kozinski, and Ms. Deason. The federal government issued 2 shall-considered energy standards as part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Acts of 2021, which amended the Public Utility Regulatory Policy Act of 1978, PURPA. PURPA was created to promote energy conservation, reduce demand, and promote greater use of domestic energy and renewable energy, increase supply. The 2 shall-considered standards are promoting demand response and promoting electric vehicle charging programs. The act required a public hearing to seek comments on the 2 shall-considered standards. With the help of the Public Affairs Office, a virtual public hearing was conducted for 30 days. The virtual public hearing was advertised in the local paper, and no comments were received during this virtual public hearing. As amended in Purpose Section 111 D20, directs state regulatory commissions and non-regulated electric utilities, like the City of Concord's electric department, to consider for adoption a very broad regulatory policy to promote demand response. The city has already adopted programs that promote demand response and demand flexibility practices with time of use rates, residential Energy Star rate, electric heat pump rebate, and peak partners. As technology is available through advanced metering infrastructure, the city will consider additional programs that will promote demand response and flexibility practices. Also, as amended, purpose section 111 D21 also directs non-electric utilities like the City of Concord Electric's Department to consider for adoption a broad regulatory policy to promote electrical vehicle charging programs in their retail service territories. For the second shall consider standard, the city operates 5 publicly available electric vehicle charging stations which are currently free to charge. As technology is available through advanced metering infrastructure, the city will consider additional programs that will promote electrical vehicle charging. It is staff's recommendation to adopt the resolution in the agenda packet entitled Resolution for the Shall Consider Regulatory Standards Added to PURPA by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021. As a summary, staff has reviewed the 2 energy standards and found the city already offers programs that promote demand response and EV charging. While maintaining our goal to consistently deliver reliable electric service in a timely and cost-effective manner, the city will continue to consider additional programs as technology advances. By adopting the resolution, the city will meet the requirements of the purpose standards. Are there any questions?
Question from council? All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Number 3, consider approving clarification of terms of home agreement between STC Coleman Mills LLC and Concord.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mary will cover this item for council this evening.
Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, yes, I'm back again with Coleman Mills.
You beat me to the punch.
So there are 3 items that we are needing to clarify for our home agreement, and those items do require council's approval on those. The first one is to change the owner portion of the agreement to reflect STC Coleman LLC and not Strategic TC Properties. This was at the request of the attorney for the Coleman Mills property because STC Coleman LLC will be the owner of the property. The second change was a result of the National Park Service. They had dropped the number of units from 152 to 150. This is resulting from some of their changes that they were requiring, being that it's on the National Registry, and staff did wait until they had received approval through the tax credit program through Housing Finance Agency before we requested that change. And then the last one, the tax credit will not allow them to make any repayments within 3 years post-construction, and so they have asked to extend the repayment terms, which we have to also amend the affordability period on this to 20 years, and with the change for that, the 2% repayment of the interest will come back on the table. And 2 items I'm sure council will enjoy knowing. The closing date has been set for September 23rd, and a groundbreaking has tentatively been set for the first week in October. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any question from council?
Yes, ma'am. The closing is set for September 23rd, and the groundbreaking is tentatively set for the first week of October. They have not selected a date, but they have identified that first week.
So can we use ink on this, or should we use pencil?
That's your call.
And I do have a question. In the documentation, there's 7 floating home designated units. What's a floating designated unit?
So within home, you can have either a fixed unit or a floating unit. And a fixed unit is the exact same unit, has to always be filled by a person who is qualified under the home program. A floating unit gives the management company the opportunity to move that unit as needed.
Okay, got it.
So it's really just makes those regulations easier to attain.
Okay. Question from council? All right, thank you very much. And I did use ink. Number 4, consider approving construction of an aircraft viewing area for Eagle Scout project at Fire Station 9.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on the Fire Chief, Mr. Jake Williams, to address this item with council.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kojinski. So I'm working with Mr. John Morrison, who is working on his Eagle Scout project. He has proposed to build a aircraft viewing area on the backside of Fire Station 9 to be utilized to view the airport or give the individuals that are in the community room a place to go out and socialize, enjoy lunch. If you do approve it, we are still waiting on the approval from the insurance company with the safety risk department. Hoping to have an answer back on the 22nd of that. So Mr. Morrison couldn't be here tonight. He attends a boarding school in Virginia, so he is unable to attend, but I can answer any questions if you have any.
Question from council?
Who will maintain it?
Building grounds. So I've spoke to the building grounds department. So Councilmember Stock, it's like kind of 2 picnic areas and just a mulch area. And it's the property where we located on the Station 9 property is bare dirt now.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you for working with John. He said that you were very good to work with, and I think a lot of our staff does things like this where we work with the youth when they learn how government works. And I know, like Sheila in the past, when she was designing, some of the pump tracks and skate parks, she involved some of the youth in these things. And so you taking your time on that, I really appreciate our staff when they do that.
Yep,
Thank
yes,
you
sir.
for that.
That's important.
Yes, sir.
John?
Not a question, Chief, just a comment. Thanks so much to 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony, your team, and us allowing us to come to your house at Station 8. We appreciate it. I know you had help from the Sheriff's Office and others and our PD as well, so that was very good that we still do that and still remember, and they did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Yes, sir, always, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 5, consider allocating 1.6 million affordable housing revolving fund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking for Dr. Patrick Graham. I thought he was going to be here to address this item tonight with council. Mr. McKenzie, do you want to take this one?
Sure, and the documentation's in our package. The request is for 1.6 million. This will be used to acquire 9 single-family homes that we hope can be rehabbed, what we call NOAH, naturally occurring affordable housing. The descriptions are in here. This was one of the original ideas behind Concord Family Enrichment. And with costs we've got now, construction cost, lack of land, this has become more of a priority and some things that we'll go after as the market moves back and forth. So I hope council will entertain this. Any questions? I'll do my best.
Okay, any questions for JC?
Yeah, it helps us with sewer too. Because I will say, as chair of We Build's board, I see the sewer from the developer side as well as ours, and both sides stink. So yeah, that's a good point.
This is part of our original allocation commitment. I mean, this isn't like, it's out of the penny.
It's the 1 penny for
Yeah,
this year.
this not, just wanted to clarify that, yeah.
Yeah, it's coming right out of the revolving housing fund, so.
Yep.
All right, any more questions? All right, thank you. Item 6, consider approving Concord co-sponsorship application, Atrium Health and the Flywheel Foundation Converge South.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Ian, who oversees the co-sponsorship program for the city, to present this item to council.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky. The co-sponsorship application before you this evening is for the Converge South event to be held October 5th and 6th at the Cabarrus Center on Union. The applicants, Atrium Health and the Flywheel Foundation, are requesting in-kind services from Concord Police and Solid Waste. The main expense for this event will be for off-duty pay for the officers that they're requesting to be on site. Due to the size of the venue and event, Concord Police felt it was necessary to add additional officers to what the applicants were originally requesting for overall safety of the event. The estimated cost to the city for these services are approximately $3,200. Happy to answer any questions.
And the last number I saw, there's close to 500 coming to this event? Is it?
That's what they were estimating, yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is from the southeast, they'll be all coming in here, entrepreneurs.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. For clarity, the officers will be paid on duty, or is it going to be secondary employment?
A secondary employment, yes,
Be
ma'am.
secondary employment, okay. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Hey, I do a Betty. Is there any significance of either one of those options? Like, would there be like an issue if it were the other way? Just curious about that. Okay, just the money? Yeah, okay.
We're paying for it.
All right, thank you. Number 7, consider approving, amending, extending, and restating a non-exclusive franchise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Assistant City Manager Derek Blackburn to come up and introduce this item. I do believe we have some guests here tonight that Mr. Blackburn will introduce and do a brief presentation to council on this request.
Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky. Over the last couple of years, we've been having some consistent conversations with BFI, who's our landfill operator. Part of those discussions have brought us to amending our agreement to make sure that it is current and it reflects some things that have changed over the years. There are minor changes in the ordinance that is before you. The first one was looking at the years of useful life, given the tonnage that's entering into the landfill. That needed to be changed and updated, or the projections of that needed to be changed and updated. And then also extending the terms of the franchise agreement itself within the ordinance. I will say those were basically the changes. Financial arrangements all still remain the same. I will say that we do have representatives from BFI that are here tonight. Mr. Shane Walker, who's our area president, Brady Luish, our area vice president, Timothy Ginn, area director of operations and support, and Andrew McGee, who's a general manager. So if you have any additional questions regarding operations, they are actually here to answer those questions.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Any question from council?
Several months ago, several members of the council were able to go out to the BFI landfill. It's an amazing operation, and it's well done. And I think we are fortunate to have them as people who work with us and serve this community well. So I'm very pleased that we can keep them here a little longer.
Yes, go ahead, JC.
I may have misunderstood this when I read all of this, but we've been talking about 2035 is probably the end of life, but it looks like now probably the best is about 2032. 7 to 9 years in here, which would be 2030 to 2032.
The projection, and I'll ask Andrew to come up. Projection-wise, the document seeks to clarify, though, that it is just stating, the useful life of the landfill to give it that space. Just if it falls at 2032, 2035, it's clarifying, having some language in there to clarify and give that flexibility. Okay. But based on what's happening now, they felt like they needed to move it from 10 to 12 to 7 to 9.
7 to 9, understand. Thank you, Derek.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you very much. Number 8, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Vortec Aquatic Systems.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on George from the Planning Department to come forward, Parks and Recreation Department. He is a planner, so he works with both groups. So he's going to provide this presentation this evening for council and a great opportunity for the city. So, George.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne and Ms. Kolchinsky. Parks and Recreation Department is requesting approval to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Vortex Aquatic Structures for the equipment purchase, stamped construction plans, and associated equipment for the Caldwell Park splash pad in the amount of $272,000 $550.15. The splash pad, which you can see in your renderings on your screens, will be 4,244 square feet in size and can accommodate 170 users comfortably, and has been specifically designed for Caldwell Park. It is fully accessible and interactive, and has interactive features including play area zones designed for both toddlers and teenage groups, and a central all areas family zone. The toddler zone particularly has been designed for sensory and motor skill development. Vortex Aquatic Structures International USA is a national vendor for aquatic recreational equipment. Upon council's authorization, the company will provide the splash pad features and construction plans required for permitting. Vortex is a part of the NPP Gov National Procurement Cooperative and eligible to be selected for sole source procurement for the equipment. There are several reasons for bringing this item to you for approval at this time. First, although Vortex is a sole source provider, the company's pricing structure is scheduled to increase later this month. So being conscious of cost, we wanted to purchase ahead of that increase. Second, as a splash pad equipment provider, Vortex also provides the specific design plans for their products that will be reviewed and approved by Cabarrus Health Alliance. And this is the appropriate point in the design and permitting phase of the park project for that review to take place. And third, even though the splash pad equipment and features are technically an owner-provided item, once the design plans are approved by CHA, the installation can be added to the bid package received by the general contractors, allowing for additional cost savings since the GC's installation pricing will almost certainly be less than the pricing we would receive if the city installed the splash pad feature under our own separate contract. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any question from council?
I have one, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Is this going to be a recirculating splash pad, or will this be a freshwater pad?
It's recirculating.
Okay.
As most of them are, and they do have, as you might imagine, they have the ability to be flushed whenever we need to do it. There are going to be regular periods that are similar to what you would do for a pool, more than what you would do for a pool, but I'm not a technical expert on splash pad procedures, so the answer is yes, and I can get you more information if you need that on the.
No, I don't. I just remember when we built that splash pad downtown, before I was on council, it was a big deal with this council, or the prior councils, about whether or not it was going to be recycled or fresh. And just for your information, we chose to do fresh water because it was very minimal water. So that splash pad downtown is not recirculating. And so it's just interesting to hear that. I think people were concerned with some of the waterborne diseases at the time.
Filtered,
And
so.
yeah, I know. Yeah, so that's good. Sure.
Other questions?
I don't have any questions, just a comment. When I first saw this visual, I was very impressed. So I love the design. Looking forward to getting installed.
We're excited about it too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is
I
one
would
heck of a
also
space.
like to say, I can't imagine 170 kids on that thing. That's massive. And I hope, Bill, when you do the ribbon cutting in the middle of this,
With a
that the
bathing suit
water
on, I
is
hope.
turned on.
So I got it now. All right. That's the last question. Thank you very much. It left the image with everybody and it's just not working right. All right, we're moving on. We got the next 5 are Dirk, dealing with the airport. So number 9, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a contract addendum. Number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you stated, we do now turn to Dirk for the next 5 items, so he'll continue through those pending any questions from council on each item.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky. In front of you is item number 9, which is, I wish it was a little bit more nicer as a splash pad, but this deals with our fuel farm. Doesn't have much color, but it's a requirement where, as you recall, we're adding an additional 20,000 gallon tank to the farm. Based on engineers' recommendations, we need to add some isolation check valves. To give you an idea quickly, in fiscal year 23, we did 318,543, a 21% increase in fuel, as well as 2.7 in Jet A. So as we continue to grow in requirements, based on a recommendation, we're adding the 20,000 gallon fuel tanks. We're requesting addendum number 3. Any questions?
And the eye wash station is your splash pad?
Yes, sir. It's part of our safety requirements.
No more questions? All right, number 10.
Yes, sir. As part of the FAA's requirement under Section 163, as we are developing the North Apron Access Road, a requirement for a CADX, category exclusion, has come up as a requirement. We've talked to engineers. We've got an estimate to complete that. It's in the amount of $9,998, which includes the access road and the sediment trap sand filter, which is something that's come up, was not included in our initial scope with our engineering firm. And this will be funded through NCDOT.
Questions? There are no questions. Move on to number 11.
Yes, sir. So this is something that we've been working with Federal Aviation Administration. It's our runway widening project, which will go from 100 to 150 feet. In the sort of the thinking of the Federal Aviation Administration, they're asking us to pre-fund their medium intensity approach lighting system and runway alignment lights. And this is a requirement for the runway widening project. They're asking us to fund them at $141,737.37 for the design, while we eventually will do the runway widening, which is anticipated in fiscal year '25. We can ask for reimbursement of the design portion, but first they want the check up front.
Just a quick question. When you start the widening from 100 to 150 feet, how much downtime will the airport see?
Well, that's where we're discussing right now, is trying to figure that out, because it could end up maybe an 18-month project, which we really don't want to do. We're seeing if we can end up maybe 2 weeks shut down. I don't know if that's even feasible. We've talked to some other airports around the country that have similar configurations in terms of the operations. And as we kind of work through that design process, we'll get back with all our tenants, including the airline. It's probably not going to be able to work because of NASCAR's schedule, but in the end of the day, I think we can accelerate to maybe for a period of time close, for example, at 10 o'clock, and then open up at 10 a.m. Be a little inconvenience for our tenants, but if we can accelerate the project, that's the goal.
That's what I've seen around the world more.
Yeah, I'll end up less hair than I have currently, so.
Yeah. All right, number 12.
Yes, sir. So the next item is a construction administration for our north and south gravel lots in compliance with NCDOT Aviation required some additional resident inspection and quality assurance for the pavement itself. And we are asking for a request for addendum for that in the amount of $2,370. This will be funded through NCDOT administration.
Okay. And the last one, number 13.
Yes, sir. So this is part of our, again, construction administration with the hangar taxi lane project. We've got our grant, and this is another piece, the last piece, for, again, resident inspection, quality design, and assurance. This will be partially funded through FAA as well as NCDOT Aviation.
Okay. Any questions?
How much is this one?
$281,330.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, number 14, consider awarding a total bid to City of Concord Spring Street South Phase 1 concrete road replacement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I ask Philip to cover this item with council this afternoon.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolczynski. This item is the consideration of awarding our total bid for the Spring Street South Phase 1 concrete road replacement project to Performance Managed Construction Incorporated. The contract consists of the selected contractor performing all the necessary work to remove the concrete roadway, which is beneath the asphalt surface you see today, repair any curb work that needs to be done along the way, remediation underground from Wilshire to Freiling. So 3 formal bids were received on August 30th, with the lowest being Performance Managed Construction in the amount of $2,252,240.00. The final completion date in the contract is set for 270 days from the notice to proceed. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions? Yes, sir.
How did that match up with your budget, Philip?
We actually estimated, this came in just below our estimate on this project, so.
Good job.
I think a large concern we had was the asphalt prices right now, and, to our benefit, things were competitive, so.
Well, that's good. And
Will that portion of Spring be closed for 270 days?
It will not be totally closed. It'll be closed to through traffic for, essentially the major demolition portion of that while they're taking the concrete out. There's gonna be times when they'll have to do a total shutdown in smaller portions, especially because the shallowness of the utilities that we're aware of. But the part of the pre-construction phase, we will make sure that everyone can get to their residence, and as we've done with other rehabilitation projects like this. So.
Thank you.
yeah, I think this is just similar to Virginia that we did a couple years ago. One question, did the cost go up a lot per square? It's probably about the same, wasn't it, per?
I don't have the Virginia cost in front of me, but I would project it's a little bit higher than Virginia, but it certainly didn't raise quite to the level that
Yeah.
was feared.
And then I guess the other thing, piggybacking on what Betty said, is we, I guess learned things when we did Virginia. I think that was pretty smooth, according to the residents, about the notifications and how we were able to create access for driveways. I assume we'll keep that same spirit of this thing, because this will be quite disruptive.
Yeah.
I think this is even a more busy street than Virginia was.
Correct. And we learned a lot with the subsurface, how to keep the road stable, so that we could make it travelable to folks' driveways. And so, especially this, we've definitely factored that into our unit cost for stabilization throughout the life of the project. So we'll be able to get everybody to their driveways, certainly.
Any more questions? Thank you. And number 15, consider preliminary application from Capricia Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sue will cover this item for council this afternoon.
Mayor, council members, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky. Ms. Reed has submitted in a preliminary application for water service at 3 separate parcels. They're all in the vicinity together. One parcel on Zion Church Road already has an existing home on it. The 2 other parcels are vacant, and the applicant proposes to build single-family home on each lot. So the recommendation, there is not sewer available anywhere in the area. And so the recommendation would be to allow the owner to move forward final application without requiring annexation.
Question? No question, council. All right, thank you very much. Anyone like to pull anything off the consent agenda? All right, nothing to pull off the consent agenda. That is our items for this month. We are now going to be, not adjourning, but recess for about 20, 25 minutes. Get back here as soon as we can to have our proposed update. So, Laura, you want to tell us a little bit about it before we leave?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a time that staff presents to council on the various projects that we have underway or planned in this budget year, to talk to you about the progress of those various projects, where we are with those projects, are we experiencing any delays, are we on time, et cetera, and to provide some very informal conversation with council and staff about those projects, to get those updates. And then after this evening's meeting, I'm happy to provide the links to all the presentations to council. So if there's something you want to go back and reference or you have questions about, you do have an agenda in front of you for that project update meeting. Mike does have all those presentations queued up. So when we do come back in here, staff will come up, council will sit up here on the dais, and staff will come up and to the podium and make those presentations, and we'll just roll through them. If there's questions, again, stop staff, ask the questions, and then we'll roll right through them, and we'll finish when we finish.
So if we start at 5:10, that'll be okay?
Yeah, sure. We should be out here by 10 or 11. Be great.
Yeah, well, that's your part. My part is to get it started. Yours is to get it done. Okay. With that said, we are going into recess. Recess till when? Till 5:10. Yeah, 20 minutes. That should give us time. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in a little bit.